If everyone could take a seat, we're going to get ready and get started with our program this morning. Thank you all for coming out bright and early. Our hungover friends will be here later. But as I told the panel, there's a large contingent of streaming viewers. Yesterday's 10 a.m. panel had somewhere in the neighborhood of 20,000 viewers live, so we're not alone. All right, it's my pleasure to introduce the first panel of this morning, Limitless Future-Proofing, How Any Blockchain Use Case Can Be Built with Polkadot, with our moderator, Stefan Sopic.
Thank you so much, Peter. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our talk. As Peter said, today we'll talk about future-proofing with Polkadot and limitless potential for different use cases on the Polkadot platform. And with me, I have three such unique use cases: Žiga from OriginTrail, Sergei from Robonomics, and Chris from Bit.Country. And so I thought it would be nice by starting all of you with basically introducing yourselves and introducing your projects. And Žiga, we can start with you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us. I'm Žiga Drev. I'm one of the co-founders of OriginTrail, which is the world's first decentralized knowledge graph, organizing humanity's most important assets, making them discoverable, verifiable, and valuable. That's a very, very long title, I know. But essentially, what OriginTrail does, we're taking the same technology as Google has, which is a knowledge graph, to organize assets. At the same time, we're overlaying this technology on blockchain. It's a multi-chain project, and we have over 2,500 nodes globally supporting this network. Currently, this network is being used by companies worldwide and also individuals. For example, 40% of all the imports to the United States are secured using OriginTrail. So, for example, you'd have Walmart, Costco, JCPenney exchanging information on audit reports on some 22,000 factories from across the globe. And that way, they would achieve certain efficiencies and trustworthiness, etc., in the imports to the United States. Another one, very important one, is Trust, and I'm happy to have to host Courtney Soulsby of BSI, the British Standards Institution, and she's going to be telling us more about the pharmaceutical case, how OriginTrail is used there. So when I'm saying important assets, essentially we're talking about the very important assets that also aim to kind of protect humanity, protect supply chains, making them work for us regular people. And last week, we just landed and secured our own Polkadot parachain slot, which is awesome. And we're also on a mission to land on Polkadot relay chains, so layer 0, on 4th of June. So it's an exciting week ahead of us.
It's very exciting. Thank you so much, Žiga. Sergei.
My name is Sergei. I'm 10 years in crypto, so I remember the time when Bitcoin was around $100, and it was more like a toy for developers. Last 7 years, I'm working on a project with name Robonomics, where we try to find solutions to connect complex robotics and Internet of Things solutions with blockchain in suitable form. It means not just connect everything and every type of robots to blockchain, but try to find suitable use cases for that. So with this task, we spent 7 years and made around 17 R&D projects. So, yeah.
Thank you. That's impressive. Chris.
Hey everybody, Chris here from Bit.Country. I'm in charge of the community side for Bit.Country. I will explain the value proposition of Bit.Country is offering Metaverse as a service. So you as a business owner, as an influencer, as a KOL, or just as a person that wants to build your own Metaverse, to launch it or to have your community engage with you in a more immersive way rather than just like watching your live streams and all those things. You can do so, and we are offering actually all the tools. So without having any knowledge in coding, 3D design, blockchain technology, you will be able to create your own Metaverse, have your own NFT marketplace, mint your own NFTs. And that's mainly kind of it, I guess.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, so we mentioned L0, and we know that Polkadot is a shared blockchain, meaning it connects several chains together in a single network, allowing them to process transactions in parallel and exchange data between the chains in a secure way. And so when we talk about when we talk about shared security and tapping into shared security of the Polkadot network, I wanted to ask all of you, what is your shared security use case, or what made you decide that Polkadot's shared security is something that figures in your plans? And we can start with Sergei this time.
Yeah, okay. As I said, we started 7 years ago on Ethereum. So we spent around 3 years with implementation in form of smart contracts. And in 2018-19, we found information about Substrate framework and decided to try to build our own blockchain, because in many cases, after 2 or 4 years from your start of your projects, in form of smart contracts, you will find some topics what you cannot resolve in form of smart contracts. And sometimes you will need to build your own blockchain solution. So we think that we need it, but at the same time, we really don't interested was in creating our own security level. We know that it's something different. We want to build custom blockchain, but we don't really want to care about security of this blockchain. So Polkadot was most interesting solution in this case for us.
Yeah, that makes sense. Chris, how about you? How is shared security helping Metaverse?
Shared security in the metaverse, as Sergei was mentioning earlier, I mean, the Polkadot ecosystem gives you actually the opportunity to focus developing your product without worrying in creating or actually incentivizing the whole infrastructure. Like, as we know, the Ethereum blockchain has now all these miners now migrating into validators, but there needs to be like thousands of validators to be able to have the blockchain really secure. Polkadot, with this shared security system, allows you just to create your custom blockchain, do it, adapt it to your product, and just connect it and enjoy actually all these functionalities, all this security, all this interoperability across different blockchains. And in the metaverse, interoperability is going to be pretty important. Why? Because we might create some applications, but other people might want to customize or have specific features from other blockchains or from other parachains that are like, how do I say it, like required for them to use a metaverse. Let it be security or let it be a KYC. We, as Bit.Country, we don't want to get involved with KYC, but maybe we can plug and kill as a parachain, and they do all the KYC. We just implement their palette into our blockchain, and there you go.
Yeah, amazing. And as Chris mentioned, I think networking effects and the networking effects of the relay chain are extremely important, because basically you get them out of the box. Everybody who connects to the relay chain and adds functionality to it benefits from the networking effects. So I was thinking, Žiga, you can expand a little bit more on that.
Yeah, I just spoke 2 weeks ago with the formulator of the law of the network effects, Bob Metcalf. He's one of our advisors, and discussing what are the specifics of this law. And essentially what it tells you is that the value of the whole network, or the cluster of networks, will grow with the squared number of users within the network. And you can also like do several derivations from there on, because this is not only a network. Blockchains are not only network of people, users, but also network of objects, assets. So we're talking about a huge potential for kind of essentially driving the value of blockchains. Now, imagine you put together several incredible parachains projects which already have their own existing user base. We have an existing community which is very eager to run nodes. We have an existing business community of partners which are already servicing their clients, thousands of their clients across the globe. And all of this, if you pull this together, the outcome, the overall value is much larger than just the sum of our contribution. It's essentially something that grows exponentially in value when put together. And like you mentioned, the shared security and the pooled security, it's very important. We have been building on other blockchains since 2016, and just putting consequential costs aside for the business partners using such blockchains. Of course, that's important, scalability, but also the shared security and the things that we can achieve together far surpasses any networking technology that has been in existence so far. We have been following Polkadot since 2016, since the inception of the white paper, although it was not live back then, so we had to push and struggle with other chains, and now it's really a fun time to have all that footprint coming into Polkadot, and then complementing the existing capabilities of other parachain builders, which have their own certain capacities, which we do not have. And this will create the biggest magic in the future once we compile all those capacities that we share together, pull them together, and create better value for each respective user base.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I want to actually expand on that a little bit. So I think both you, Žiga, and Chris, you mentioned interoperability as one of the keys. And so I think it's valuable to mention now that Polkadot ecosystem, or Relay chain as a L0 chain, actually allows other chains to connect to it and benefit from everything. And one of our value propositions, I guess, in the Polkadot ecosystem is the substrate framework, which is used to easily and quickly build blockchains. Well, depending on how complicated your use case is. But it's open source blockchain software developer kit, and currently hundreds of blockchains have been building with substrate, primarily Polkadot and Kusama, but every one of you as well. And one of the features of Substrate is the forkless upgrades, right? So concept of upgrading live functionality on a blockchain without a hard fork. And a third thing that I want to mention here when we talked about communication between chains, especially Chris mentioned potentially implementing KYC from another parachain because you don't want to develop something that already exists. In the past month, we added XEM as a cross-messaging system to basically Polkadot and Kusama, which allows you to, from one chain, execute actions remotely on a different chain, and those actions could be some kind of transactions or teleporting of assets and things like that. So we have a lot of tools in the Polkadot ecosystem for the future-proofing, which is the topic of today's talk. So my question is, how has Polkadot tooling enabled you to future-proof your project? And we can start with Chris this time.
As you were mentioning, XCM opens all these kind of features that we can use. And I think in the metaverse, you don't have to be just like siloed. I mean, we are planning to eventually, once we launch on Polkadot, we are planning to potentially have 100,000 lands, which potentially can be actually 100,000 metaverses. So yes, there will be interoperability within Bit.Country, but once other blockchains want to, I don't know, have their own NFTs, have their own tokens and incentivize, even build their own metaverses using Bit.Country technology. There is a way people now know the bridges, but the Polkadot ecosystem doesn't use these bridges because, well, they are quite insecure, as they have been proven, because yes, the different blockchains might be fully secure, but the breaching of the assets kind of centralizes the information that you are trying to move from one chain to the other. And for us, the fact that XCM gives you this possibility to transfer assets, connect other chains, and have other chains actually building their own metaverses if they want to get their community more involved and create whatever world they want to be, because we believe that there is no one metaverse. So why don't we just allow people to build their own version of the metaverse? So XCM gives us these possibilities without risking the security of the people that are willing to build their metaverses with Bit.Country technology.
Thank you. Thank you. And then it's a very good point. XCM messages are actually leveraging the shared security of the underlying relay chain. So you can be sure that when you're doing some of those high-value transactions between the two chains, you know that security is there. Sergei, how about you?
Yeah. For us, most important was started to build our own blockchain on nice framework because, for example, we focused on implementation for Internet of Things market, but when you're starting to build your own blockchain, you will need to get all stuff around cryptography, about other stuff, what important for decentralized networks. And if you will look on architecture of your solution, when you need to build each pieces of your own blockchain, you will find that your use case, it's only around 10% of all stuff what you have. At the same time, if you try to use some frameworks for that, you should care who really made this framework, because you should trust to these people about cryptography, about decentralized approach, about communication layer inside framework, and parity. In 2015, 2017 was most experienced team about decentralized technology. They built most best, as I know, client for Ethereum, Parity. All miners shifting from Go Ethereum to Parity in 2016. Secondly, they built Bitcoin client, and when you found that the developers team have a lot of experience with the most favorite client for Ethereum, and they have an implementation for Bitcoin, so it means they have a lot of experience what they can put inside one framework, and you can start to build with a trust to this framework. So this is the main thing what we have, what we had in time when we started. And when we found information about forkless approach, it was second part of the all questions about your own blockchain, because every time you're starting from scratch, if you build your blockchain in the last 2 years, it's not means that it will be 100% ready to work. In the next years, you will need to upgrade your network. And you know how it's happening with Bitcoin and Ethereum every time when you need to change something. All small things not happening never, and big movements every time need to double check and so on. So on-chain governance, forkless approach, in our opinion, is a very good approach for startups and small teams who wanted to create their own blockchain.
That's awesome. That's exactly the line of thinking that was happening at the time with Gavin and Rob, who co-founded Polkadot. They were thinking, we have all this experience building different types of blockchains, and we think we know what would be the best way of going about this. Yeah. Awesome. And Žiga, like, you can answer this question, but also from a perspective of you tried different chains as well. So maybe you can talk from that perspective. What made you decide on Polkadot ecosystem?
Well, besides the most apparent ones, scalability, so not sacrificing decentralization for scalability. This is one. Then secondly, the network effects. And third, that the guests here have already touched upon, is the common set of rules that are laid forth by the Polkadot movement, and these rules are essentially making cost or kind of shortening the lead time before you can actually deploy a solution on parachain or just deploy the parachain. And this is not only important for the teams, but also for the open source community of developers that already know and understand how parachains function, how substrate functions, and they come in to your ecosystem already equipped with knowledge. So far, we've been putting a lot of efforts into educating our community as to how they can use the decentralized knowledge graph, which we will continue to do. And it's of the utmost importance that they already have an understanding of how the layer 1 functions and also the layer 0, but most importantly, layer 1 and how they can build bridges between the parachains so that we can connect value propositions from, let's call it Google for Web3, because Branimir is going to hold a presentation on how decentralized knowledge graph is essentially Google for Web3, how we can pair those capabilities with the IoT-related or robotics parachains with the Metaverse, and without having these common set of rules which developers can understand from the get-go without you having to educate is super important. It shortens the lead time for us to deliver value to users.
Awesome. So I have some individual questions for each one of you, and then we can open it up to everybody else. For Žiga, 2/3 of all the world's GDP is actually supply chains. So how does OriginTrail help companies with your supply chain solution?
Yeah, it's a very broad question. Also, like you said, supply chains are perhaps the most important human activity, and they span from like so many things. Essentially, whatever we do right now is a supply chain of sort. And we are very active in some very important sectors within this broader supply chain arena. And Courtney here from the British Standards Institution, she's going to go more into details as to how we help get donated medicines to the intended destinations so that those who are underprivileged can cure their hemophilia situation. And hemophilia can be a deadly can be deadly if you don't receive medicines. And OriginTrail, along with BSI Solution, is essentially helping donor organizations, so the bigger pharmaceuticals, to get crucial medicines to the intended markets without risking that the medicines will go across some other border and be sold on the black market. So it's a very important, I would say, human aspect that we're also tackling in supply chains. And then we also have like things that are perhaps near and dear to those who hold certain assets. It might be a digital asset such as an NFT asset that you might want to not only protect in terms of the 42-character string, but also protect the underlying asset, which is it does not necessarily need to be stored on a centralized service. You can use decentralized knowledge graph for that. So something near and dear to people, such as NFTs or even physical objects, which are also part of the supply chains. You can essentially bring information and encapsulate information as an asset. We talked a lot about digitalization previously with enterprises, and now we should be talking ownership, assets, because this is also important not only for individuals, but also enterprises. Assets bring ownership, ownership brings value, and supply chains are all about the value.
Awesome. Awesome. So I want to ask Chris then about putting my watch on a Metaverse avatar that I will have. But also, I think what is actually important here is we had here on the panel yesterday representatives from Meta, and they were talking about their investment in the Metaverse, which seems to be huge. My question for you would be, why is it important for Metaverse to be decentralized?
Yesterday, he was mentioning one of the topics in regards to regulation and kind of how you limit and how you moderate the content that is put out to the people using your application. So, in my opinion, if you give, or if you, as an owner of your own metaverse, give your community the opportunity to vote what content they want to have in their metaverse, what content they don't want in their metaverse, I think it takes away that charge, that load from you. And if regulators come and they say, this is happening in your metaverse, I mean, only the community that agreed with this set of rules are the ones using my metaverse. The other ones are using other metaverses. So it kind of gives you the power to choose what you want to consume, what you want to create, what you want to share, and how you want to use your own technology. So the community is the one that is taking the direction of your project, of your metaverse, of your applications. And it's not you who are offering the service and they need to adapt because it was the way you design it or the way they told you to design it.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And also, like what you're basically describing is this multiverse of different metaverses that could be that could have different rules in them, but you can freely go through them.
Definitely, yeah. Like our approach is to have these metaverses connected. So if you find that this metaverse is already implementing something that you are not happy with, you can just move all your things without any security risk or anything. I mean, I will just move all my certificates, all my NFTs, my avatars, because you can have more than one avatar if you want, all your avatars. Even the utility NFTs that are within the metaverse, they can be transferred to another metaverse that is compatible as well. If they want to allow these kind of things to be listed or shown in their metaverse, yeah, you can just transfer them.
Awesome. And I have a question for Sergei, which is also an open-ended question, but it's how did you get inspired to use blockchain in robotics?
Yeah. For many cases around blockchain happening in more decentralized finance or finance approach. And when I said that I'm building a project in the last 7 years with focus on robotics, it's a standard question why it can be interesting for robotics. Basically, I have a one simple answer for this question, and I guess it will be enough. Every day, when you pay from your smartphone to vending machine or any automated services around you for parking or something else, you have in reality two transactions. First is a banking account transaction where you transferring your money to other account. And second, happening in clouds between bank and, for example, Amazon Web Service, which control vending machine. Because you need to transfer information about payment and technical details. For example, what type of coffee you want. Not only price of coffee, but what type of coffee too. So right now, most of the solutions on market for that have a one part with the financial flow of the data, and second is separated with the technical details. But when you try to use blockchain or smart contracts or cryptocurrency, you can combine technical and economical details into one transaction. And it means you will never pay for coffee and not get your coffee. Or you can imagine more complex scenarios like containers in supply chains, your IoT devices inside container can be like insurance of everything inside with humidity and temperature was good, and that is the reason why payment can go to the next account. So we can connect robotics and Internet of Things to blockchain to just make next step to combine technical and economical details into one transaction. That's all, it's simple. But every time we need to understand only one thing. When I get this button on this hand and put on this, we don't need transaction to blockchain. It means inside complex robotics, for communication, we don't need to have a blockchain. But if, I don't know, autopilot truck going to lights out store to bring to you your items, they need to interact because autopilot truck from one company, a logistics company, and for example, lights out factory can be by other company. So in intercorporation communications, yeah, it's a good place to connect your robotics directly to each other with the blockchain, and our payments will be inside technical flow.
Yeah, and first of all, I just want to say to everybody here that you can actually get your coffee in the other room with one simple transaction, because Sergei here brought a coffee maker that actually is integrated with the Substrate framework and is working through Kusama. But also, I want to notice that when cutting out the middleman, it's not just that you're cutting out the bank transfer itself, but you're cutting out like reliance on the cloud infrastructure,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And in certain cases, well, if your security is important to you, and we had outages of like big cloud providers as well, and then they also have shady security as well. So this is something that you could completely cut out and have direct dependency between two basically machines.
Yeah, it's like a second part. As I said, I will give you a simple answer, but more complex answers about side effects of connecting all robotic stuff to cloud. Because you know that with internet solutions based on cloud, sometimes we have a big problems like a Twitter not working, and wow, everywhere everyone is scaring what will be happen if smart city will be just switch off for the next 6 hours. So it can be if you will connect our devices inside city to cloud, and it's not depend on how good companies, it's Intel, IBM, or Microsoft, on long term, like 20 years, you will see blackout,
Yes.
of course. So yeah.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay, so I think we have time for another question, and that is, what is next for your project? And we can start from Žiga.
Like I said, we're landing our parachain on Polkadot on June 4th. Then we have another very important update coming on the decentralized knowledge graph called V6. And V6 is going to add to the current capabilities of the DKG, which will in the future not only allow companies and individuals to use it to attach attestations, link information, link data, but also essentially to issue assets on the decentralized knowledge graph. And that also means that you're going to be able to use decentralized knowledge graph as sort of a Google browsing through the vastness of multiverses or omniversa, vastness of other crucial assets that not only exist within different blockchain ecosystems, but also potentially in some centralized systems. And what we aim to do here is essentially to scratch the surface. And if we consider the Web3 world right now, what we see as the tip of the iceberg, what we aim to do, and we believe that this is going to be kind of the next push for the entire Web3 industry, we aim to bring the mainstream users into the Web3. And we see OriginTrail as one of the components that has its own particular value proposition, and it has to be done in unison with other fundamental components such as Polkadot, Kusama, and other projects aiming to connect metaverses and aiming to connect also the world of robotics, IoT devices. And this is what we feel that the future holds. And it's happening sooner rather than later. It's already here, and perhaps it's more visible to us. And I'm really looking forward for Courtney's presentation. So I welcome you to join us a little bit later. And Courtney essentially is going to be talking about something which we all feel that belongs to future, but it's already here. It's happening now.
Awesome. And Sergei, what is next for you?
We have a parachain on Kusama, and our plans to stay inside Kusama ecosystem first. In the next 2 years, we will not to participate in auctions for Polkadot parachains because we think that first of all, we can bring IoT solutions for your smart home first, and because it's more simple than to start working with the corporations or factories, and it's not meaning that the Polkadot much more have a good level of shared security, they have a security audits and so on. It's just a question about time of your communicating with the big companies. So we think that first of all, what we should do is connecting standard sensors and IoT devices, what you can buy on Amazon or on AliExpress, to Kusama parachain to control outside your home under Kusama parachain control. So it means that you can use it in any places in the world, in the United States and in China. And one of the good example why it's can be interesting for you, because you know about some startups in California that create some IoT devices connected directly to their cloud, and when the company was disappear from market, it's not working for you. So you spend your money to some devices, spend a lot of time with building your home, and after some years, because this company not existing on the market, you can use it. So we wanted to fix that first in the next 2 years, and only after that going to Polkadot to present our solutions for corporates or factories.
Going out of market or different jurisdictions, right?
Yeah.
And laws changing and cloud services not being available in different jurisdictions as well.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Chris, what is next for the Metaverse, the Bit.Country?
For Bit.Country, yeah. So we are currently running on Kusama. Our product is on alpha testing now. We have few people helping us with testing, improving our product. Once the testing and once the improvements, we are planning actually for this first set of tools that we want to offer the community. Already, we will open the alpha testing for everybody, so we get more feedback. We test, stress test all our infrastructure, see what things need to be improved as well. Once we are 100% sure that everything is working fine, we might also look to secure a parachain in the Polkadot relay chain as well.
Awesome.
What else? Yeah, so I'm hoping that after we finalize the fast development, because Kusama is a parachain, or actually is an ecosystem for fast development. So once we finalize this fast development, we improve all our things, because we're doing it like around the clock. Hopefully one day we can have the robots from Sergei doing 3D scans and making missions in this space and simulating everything in the metaverse. You can plan secondary robots to perform different missions based on this scan, or maybe implementing decentralized graphs, as Žiga was mentioning. So looking forward to more implementations as well once we fully launch.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I would open up this panel to the questions from the audience. We have a question here. Can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, yes, this is Konstantin with Beneficious. And the question, I'm not sure to whom, maybe to the ones who want to pick it up. Number of investors and developers are considering various platforms, blockchains, to invest, to develop their projects with. And obviously, what we need to understand is that the platform will be around and will be prominent in 10 years' time. And obviously, if Polkadot is successful, there will not be Ethereum, there will not be, I don't know, Cosmos, SDK, there will be Polkadot. But what the question is, why do you continue investing in this particular ecosystem, and what gives you the assurance that, let's say, there will not be another really fast-moving platform that will replace Polkadots and everybody else? Obviously, Polkadot is fast, but why are you sure it will not break things? So that's the question.
Okay, thank you so much. I can start by adding one small correction to that. The vision of Polkadot and the vision behind Polkadot and Kusama ecosystems is a multi-chain vision. So we don't necessarily think that one chain will win at the end. What we believe truly is that interoperability between the chains is the answer to this question. But I guess from this panel here, I guess Žiga might have the best answer, because you guys come from corporate world and high value investing. So.
Yeah, one of the reasons why we went straight to Polkadot is also because Polkadot is also, in a way, intended for the solutions that already have an existing footprint. So your appetite for taking risks is much, much lower. And that's why, after careful consideration, years of consideration, Polkadot seemed to be one of the clearest decisions to go for. Reason number one, because of the legacy. The same foundry was involved in Ethereum, so it's pretty obvious that the teams behind it are skilled, knowledgeable. Secondly, shared security, which also stems from the fact that Polkadot does have a large number of developers supporting it, from the foundational entities, Parity and Web3 Foundations and others involved, and of course us teams building on top of it, future-proofing it, furthermore providing feedback on how it works. So it's what you mentioned, it's multi-chain. So it's not here to kill anybody. So there's been far too many Ethereum killers in the space, and when we heard that something is an Ethereum killer, we immediately thought that supporting such direction would be a suicide, because we're all building on foundational components of Ethereum. So there are several, I would say, like in the Godfather's movie, offers you cannot refuse coming from Polkadot, and for us it's a pretty straightforward decision as to why we decided to follow that path. And it's expanding. It's an open-ended thing, so it will only get bigger, stronger, and more solid.
You're welcome. Any other questions from the audience? If we don't have a question, I actually have a question, which is from Twitter. I saw Vitalik tweeting about so what is next. So we had ICOs in 2017. We had 2020 being a DeFi summer, and then afterwards we had an NFT. So what would be the trigger for the next bull run? Maybe Chris.
I hope Metaverse. Yeah, I mean, Metaverses are definitely a good value proposition for everybody. Why? As I was telling earlier, Metaverse is, or there is no real definition for Metaverse. And some might think that it's just a game, but it's actually not a game. It's actually, it's a gateway between real world and something that you cannot accomplish, but you can do it in the Metaverse. Let it be visiting a nice museum, I don't know, like in Paris. You don't have the money, you don't have the possibilities to travel, or there is another lockdown, and there is no way for you to go there, see the art, see the things, the exhibitions that are happening in there. You can just go inside the Metaverse, see the things, learn. Metaverses are going to be, I believe, a revolution, because it opens new economy models, I would say. So far, the one that most people is really excited about is just the play to earn, but Metaverses will give users the possibility, like, build to earn. Like, okay, I have some skills, or I'm creative, I can just start building tools. You don't have to be even a 3D designer. We are allowing our users to use voxels, so they can build nice architectures using simple voxels, and they can later on sell them as NFTs, and whoever bought it, they can place them in the Metaverse. We are also looking into learn to earn. Bit.Country is planning to launch the first Metaverse university, hopefully. So yeah, you go there, you attend, and I think Vitalik was also mentioning the fact that these like non-transferable NFTs.
Yeah.
So if you attend the university in the blockchain, you can get your certificates, and that certificates can be attached to your wallet. They are non-transferable. So you really prove that it was you who studied the course. You really prove that it was you who went through all the process and performed this project that the company needed. So everything is shared, is public, because it's a public ledger. Everybody can verify that information, and that's it, I guess.
Yeah, awesome. I think Žiga, you had a particularly interesting use case yesterday about NFTing something from a real world and then using it as a collateral.
Yeah, I'm also going to borrow Akala's word, so Dan Reeser's word, where it's also in connection to the previous question, what Polkadot is bringing and what we believe is going to be the next boom. If we just zoom out, first chapter was about Bitcoin, second chapter was about Ethereum, and third chapter is going to be about Polkadot. Segueing into the fourth chapter of the all the parachains, all the awesome multi-chain projects that are being built, not only limited to Metaverse. Metaverse, in my opinion, really open up a floodgate for creatives to come into, and now we have another floodgate to open. And the chapter 3 and chapter 4 are going to be openers for the floodgates. And then going back to DeFi, of course, when you're able to describe the physical world using both decentralized knowledge graph technologies and NFT-like methodologies, you can essentially leverage what you own for the DeFi, within the DeFi world. You can use it as a collateral to borrow against. And this is the future. Who wouldn't want to get involved in such a future? We can actually rip more benefits out of your own net worth.
Exactly. And I think we're out of time. Thank you so much. If you guys want to have further questions, all the panelists are going to be around, and there's going to be other panels happening here in this space. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. We'll be back in about 10 minutes, and Sergei will be giving a demo or a presentation and a demonstration of some of his robots. So highly recommend everyone check that out in about 10 minutes. Thanks.